All right, what is going on today? How we doing in Atlanta Bird Gangland? It is Steve coming back at you on a Thursday, February the 18th, one day after we just finished having some good conversation about the Atlanta Falcons. All of a sudden today, not even hours after the new NFL salary cap was raised a little bit to the $180 million spot, we had three Atlanta Falcons who were told their services would no longer be needed. We have veteran Ricardo Allen at safety, whose valuable knowledge helped steer some of what was going on in 2016 and 17. Safety whose journey was chronicled in the Hard Knocks show that they had a few years ago. So that was kind of a, cool little story to see him finally make it, and not only make it, but get his contract. Really feel good story, but not totally surprised that they made that move. Guess they're going to go in another direction that way. Also, it had Alan Bailey, who was brought in a couple of years ago. Not really a huge surprise as well. When you start talking about veterans who are counting against some money here for us, we got a lot more to shed than this. And then the one that I know some folks were kind of holding out hope for, Mr. Benkert is finally released. Not really a shock, but to some who was thinking at one time that he would be an heir apparent to Matt Ryan. I know those feelings might be hurt a little bit, but yeah, he is gone as well. So we start off with those three. That saved us $10.75 million. We're going to go over a couple of folks that are potential cuts as well coming up in the next couple of weeks. I have a couple of names that I think could be on that list as well. Also, when we start talking about restructuring, who's eligible to restructure their contract to get us underneath where we need to be so we can sign some draft picks. For all the talk about draft picks we got to have the money to get the draft picks first. So we got a long way to go as far as shaving that's concerned. How are you, Lisa? Rise up, say, well, we knew changes were coming, and the changes are here, more to come. Walter, what the business is. Yes, sir. Francis, how are you today? Nice to see you. Thank you all for coming in to talk about what happened today. Again, not a big surprise today that Ricardo Allen, Alan Bailey, and Benkert were let go as far as the salary cap is concerned. Now, that move alone shed almost $11 million. Still got a long way to go. My first instinct is to tell you that people who are probably going to be talked about next in line when you start talking about cutting, James Carpenter, somebody who never really lived up to what we were expecting him to solidify at guard. I look for him to be a possible casualty. Also seeing Tyler Davidson on this list. Tyler Davidson did some good work his first year, but this year he counts $3 million toward the cap. You have a savings of a little bit more than $1 million if you let him go. Is he really, truly a valuable member of that rotation? I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. I know he was out earlier in the year on the COVID list, but did he really make that much of a difference where we're going to keep him on the team? What's going on, Miles? How you doing? Steven, do you think Dante Fowler will be with us this year? That was actually one of the people I was thinking as well. I think Dante Fowler might be one of those folks where they ask first and say, look, Dante, gave you a lot of money to come up in here. How about restructuring some of that money that you have coming? Dante Fowler this year is the 5th highest paid Falcon with $13 million on his salary this year, and a signing bonus at the beginning of March of $4.666666 million. Do you think he has been worth that this year? And even if he was worth it, you might have to go to him and say, look, can we shave a little bit off of that right quick so we can work this salary? I think that's the thing you have to ask. That you have to ask about that. Christian said, what's good, Steve? Hope y'all safe in Atlanta. Lisa says, the video is funny. Lisa, I am going to try to see if this will work out and switch to, I have an Ethernet connection, so I have no idea. Maybe that could be the weather. Maybe that could be, I don't know, but we're going to try to see if we can fix that and see what's up. So hopefully that'll come in. I apologize about any fuzziness that we have on here. That is not my intention. So where do we go from here, folks? And how do you feel about the moves? Ricardo Allen, kind of more sentimental pick to stay with the Falcons more than from a business standpoint. I mean, he's definitely good, but is he worth holding on to for another year, especially at the salary? And I think the salary was a little bit more than $6 million, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not sure if he was going to be worth it to hold on to it or not. I don't think he was. So, Joe Mitz, what's going on? What it do? What's going on, sir? And also the big news today, Carson Wentz, big trade. Carson Wentz to the Colts. Now, Carson Wentz didn't go for the big draft picks like we thought he would. He went for a second rounder and I think a conditional second rounder that could end up being a first rounder. But at the same time, they probably didn't have to give a lot away to do that, because the Colts are saying to themselves, listen, we're absorbing a lot of salary from a guy that you say has failed. So I don't blame them for not giving anything big time away and receiving Carson Wentz. And that could be a kind of a rebirth. Carson Wentz is to Frank Wright what Matt Ryan is to Kyle Shanahan, somebody who kind of jump-started him. That was his OC when he first started. So maybe they look to restart some things back in Indy. Epic says, Steven, what do you think about Rico getting released? I think it is kind of what we expected. I don't think that was a big shock. There's nothing about that move. We talked about this before the season ended last year, that Ricardo Allen was probably going to be a candidate to be gone from us this year. Armani, how you feeling, sir? Good to see you today. Talking initially about the release of Ricardo Allen and Alan Bailey and Benkert off of the team today. I think from our standpoint, now we have to start asking for some restructures. Now, Matt Ryan, as much as to a lot of people's chagrin, is still on the roster. Matt Ryan's cap hit this year is almost $41 million. And even if he went on another team, they would have to absorb $23 million of that salary. They wouldn't be on the hook for the signing bonus. So all the hopes and desires of Matt Ryan not being on this roster, the closer we get towards the draft, the less and less the reality of him probably being traded. Would he restructure again? I don't know. If I were Matt Ryan and I knew that the Falcons were probably looking to move on from me and cutting Benkert might be a good look of what the Falcons might be thinking about doing. As many of you have noted, he's the only quarterback currently on the roster. No need to worry. It's February 18th. We're going to get another quarterback in here somewhere. But I do believe that does open up the way for a quarterback to be picked at number 4. Again, not trying to say that Matt Ryan won't be the opening day starter in 2021, but with only one quarterback on the roster, I have a really good feeling that that quarterback of the future, as predicted, is going to be picked up with that number 4 pick. Brandon, the Colts have a great O-line. Oliver should go to safety. Neal should go to linebacker. Here's the problem with Neal, folks. Neal is a free agent right now. And I'm not sure, judging by the $11 million in the hole that I'm looking at, that we're going to have any room for Neal. And you look at these salaries right now for the Atlanta Falcons and listen to the cap hits more than you're listening to the salaries, folks, because the cap hit is what we're going to have to make room for if we were to end up getting rid of these folks. Matt Ryan right now, regular salary $23 million. His cap hit is $40 million. You get rid of him somehow, some way, you'll have to shave that off of your salary cap or spread it out. But we already kind of spread out. Julio Jones, $15 million base salary. He signs a $5.5 million signing bonus at the beginning of the football year, which is in March. His salary cap hit $23 million. Grady Jarrett, $13.5 million. He has a roster bonus of $4.5 million. His salary cap hit $20 million. I don't think Grady is in any conversations. Jake Matthews, $13 million. His signing bonus is $2.7. For those of you who think that they might be thinking about getting rid of Jake Matthews, I think if there was a thought that he would leave, that would be my only reason they would even entertain the idea of getting Perry Sewell out of Oregon. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm not sure if Jake Matthews is thinking about restructuring any more of his bonus. He they turned $2.6 million of his salary into bonus money. So the Falcons are on the hook for that. And he holds a very heavy $20 million salary cap hit. And last but not least, as we mentioned earlier, Dante Fowler, who this year base salary is $13 million, signing bonus of $4.6 million, and his cap hit is $18 million. So there are a couple of candidates who may want to restructure. I don't think Matt Ryan is going to be one of them. I think Matt Ryan is seeing the tea leaves. Now, maybe he wants to think about that, but if this new regime is saying, hey, we're going to reach in and try to get another quarterback, if I were Matt, I wouldn't budge off anything. I say 2 out of the last 3 years, I've shaved money off or restructured my money for you guys to go get me some help. Now it's time for you to do it on your own, new regime. And when you think about it, as I said before, there's no loyalty to Terry Fontenot or Arthur Smith. I probably look at Matt Ryan as not looking to move. Brother Joe, how you doing, sir? Say maybe the new coach will pull him out of the game when his play is not up to par. And that's the thing that we haven't had, because they were too in love with Matt here, with Thomas Dimitroff or Dan Quinn, to make that move during the game. Remember earlier this year when we were playing Chicago, one of the many games that the team came back and beat us in the end, when Mitchell Trubisky was throwing up ducks in the middle of the game, they switched real quick and went to Nick Foles, who is no superhuman person, Super Bowl winner, but they made that switch because it wasn't working out and they went on to win the game. I don't think Atlanta has set themselves up to make those switches during the game. You got Matt Schaub on the sidelines. I'm sorry, folks. I know Matt Schaub came in the one game against Seattle and threw a lot of yards, but Matt Schaub is not that guy. So it doesn't surprise me that right now Atlanta is looking for some new quarterback help to solidify things. What's going on, Glenn? How you doing today? Thanks for joining us in here, talking a little bit about the release of Ricardo Allen and Alan Bailey and everybody's favorite practice squad quarterback, Mr. Benkert. Let's see. Christian says, Neil is going after the bag. I can see him wanting 4 or 5 years, $60 million. I'm not sure if there's any safety that's 5 years, $60 million. There may be one, but I'm thinking is if you're talking about Neil with the Falcons, maybe, possibly they could think about putting a franchise tag on him, but that franchise number is probably going to be pretty expensive. You're probably talking at least $8 to $9 million. Other than that, Neil walking in and say, hey, I'll give y'all a year, and a year at $7 million, a year at $8 million. But think about it, folks. If you're the agent for Keanu Neal, you're trying to make as much money as you can, man. This is that first opportunity for you to go out on the open market and get your worth. And I think Neal is going to get at least 7 to 8 million from somebody else. Some of these teams that have some open cap space, there's no loyalty right now to Atlanta. Yeah, we looked out for you a little bit when you got hurt for the last 2 seasons by picking up on that 5th-year option. But, I mean, unless they came in there and knocked its socks off with some type of free agent move, I don't really see the Falcons making a huge move when you start talking about trying to re-sign re-sign Neal. I don't think you do. Doesn't make any sense to me, but I could be wrong. Benkert, y'all talk to me. A lot of people were talking about Benkert being a possible future quarterback for Atlanta. I never did, but I'm looking for those people today. There was a lot of folks thinking, "Oh, Benkert, he's the future. He's gonna be the next person that comes and challenges Matt and all this and all that." And that went by the wayside real quick. I mean, I don't know where that came from, but I don't know. So who do you go get? Now that these moves have been made, now that you see what's going on at the quarterback position, we're going to need a couple. Who do you go out and get? Do you go out and get Mitchell Trubisky and put him on the roster and at least challenge Matt? I'm not saying for him to start, but somebody to push him. Who do you go out and get right now? Do you dare bring in the eccentric Cam Newton to at least push Matt right now? Do you even think about it? Those are the type questions that I'm looking to see what ideas we have now that we know that Matt is the lone quarterback on the roster. I think, to me, it's just makes sense that they're looking at that number 4 pick. And with the four characters in mind, Lawrence, Fields, Lance, and Wilson. I think whoever is left over at number 4, that's probably who the Falcons are going to get. Corey says, a sad day. I'm sorry, no. Corey says, I knew Benkert was not the guy. I tried to tell a few guys in the group. Yeah, some of these folks had pom-poms for him, and I just didn't get it. Tidy, a sad day for Benkert fan club. First Etling And now Kurt. Yeah, Danny Etling, I remember that talk about him he came from New England, so he's quality. And look, preseason does not make a career. And for anybody who paid attention, anytime that you put a quarterback on a inactive list where they're not playing that day, that's probably a good sign that they're not really a part of your future. That's my thoughts. Walter, he was a practice squad for a reason. That's my thought. Lisa, no to Trubisky. And listen, and no to Cam. I'm not talking about for starters, but you are going to have somebody. Let's say, for instance, let's just put this out there. Say, for instance, my dream is revealed and they do pick Trey Lance / Justin Fields. As much as I would look forward to us having a new quarterback out there, you're going to have a veteran on this team next year if you have any chance of having some good results. And I think you have to go and look at some of these quarterbacks. And you start talking about, what New Orleans did with Jameis Winston last year. I'm not trying to compare Jameis Winston to a superstar, but I'm saying that's a solid pickup for a number 2 quarterback. Trubisky is not marketable. He's not going anywhere. Cam Newton is not marketable. He had to take a minimum salary just to get on the Patriots and got benched 3 times in 4 games. What better place to do to come home and resurrect your career? Now, I also say that, and the real Steve in me says I want Cam not even close to any of my rookie quarterbacks. So I'm only mentioning him to say what other veteran quarterbacks are out there that can come in here. I honestly don't want Cam anywhere near my rookie quarterback to pick up on any of those vibes that we need. Tobias, how you doing, sir? Don't waste any money on no backup. Got other needs to fill in free agents. But here's the thing, Tobias. The backup's not going to cost much. We're not talking about spending $10 million on the backup like the Falcons did to Matt Schaub. Talking about bringing somebody in for a $2 million, $3 million contract. Listen, what's the guy's name in San Francisco? Was it Josh Rosen or whatever? I'm talking about somebody like that. I'm not talking about spending an incredible amount of money. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to have a star quarterback and then a rookie quarterback and nobody else to battle for in preseason. You still want one veteran in there, even if they're not a 5-star. You want somebody else in there. Toddy said, I'd at least call Cam's agent. Again, I wouldn't do it, but I would understand if this regime said it. Hey, why not bring him in? Hometown guy, come home. Who knows? Humble pie could be in his repertoire this year because he went up to New England and stunk it up. Gave New England their first losing season in a long time. I know it was a lot of other factors, but New England was a quarterback away from being a decent team. He wasn't that guy. So maybe humble him a little bit and see what he does in a backup role. Maybe that will do him some good. Christian, Cam would show out if we sign him. Plus, Georgia is home for him. I'm aware of that. At least I saw a couple of games with Cam in New England. He didn't look great to me, and that's why you bring him into Atlanta to tell him, you're on a non-guarantee. We're not sitting up here giving you a $5 million contract with $3 million bonus money. We're going to make you a roster invitee and see if you can make the squad. Is there anything right now that would make a team go out there and pay more than $10 million for Cam Newton coming to a team? I wouldn't. But you got to have a body in there. Maybe not Cam, but you got to have a body in there. Brick says, the closer we get to the draft, it's becoming more obvious what we are drafting. Made it obvious today. Corey, I would take Fitzpatrick, Tyrod, or Winston as a backup. Now, the first 2 names, I wouldn't mind, Fitzpatrick or Tyrod. Winston, I got a feeling Winston is going to stick with New Orleans. I have a feeling New Orleans is going to work with Jameis Winston and see what they can get. Taysom Hill, the Taysom Hill project last year, remember, 2 of his 3 wins were against the Falcons. Not like that was. And the 3rd win was against Denver when all 3 of Denver's quarterbacks couldn't play. So for those who want to say Taysom Hill went 3-1, no. He went 2 wins against a horrible Falcons team and 1 win against a Denver team that had no quarterback. And remember, they struggled in that game against Denver in the first half. You got a team without a quarterback, you should be beating those team by 30 points in the first half. And they struggled mightily. Walter says Cam will lose the new regime job quick. He probably would. Rick, 2 things I dreamed we traded. Julio, nightmare. And now the Eagles are a great trade partner if they're high on Fields and we want Lance. Well, yeah, I'm not sure if the Eagles are going to go get 2 young guys to battle out for that job. I see the Eagles being somebody who would go after a veteran quarterback, definitely. Remember, Jalen Hurts is was a rookie. This is only his 2nd year. You don't want 2 rookies on your staff. You want a rookie and you want at least 1, possibly 2 veterans on there. As much as Jalen Hurts looked good in spurts, you still want a veteran in there to go in there and push him a little bit and see what he can do as far as bringing the best out of Jalen Hurts. Though the sample size I saw until the coach pulled him against the Giants, not the Giants, against Washington, Jalen Hurts looks like he's the real deal. He looks like him, at least to me. So what do you all think about the safety situation? Now that you see Ricardo Allen is gone, still no, free agency, we have a little ways to go, so you're not going to hear anything probably until mid-March about if they even entertain the idea of bringing back Casey. So that's 3 safeties, as I talked about yesterday, who are not officially on your roster. That's a position you have to look at. Who was the one guy we drafted? Hawkins? Hawkins might be the only safety that has some legitimate time back there that's playing. I think Neesman, I don't know if Neesman, I think Neesman is a free agent too. So, Corey Sherman says, Poole. You talk about Poole, Brian Poole. I did see something on there where saw a couple of stories where they talked about Brian Poole might come back. That might be an interesting thought. I mean, he made his money up there in New York. Might be time for him to come home. But again, he's coming back to a situation. The regime he left and he thrived in was under Dan Quinn and the defensive structure that they had there. These guys, I don't know if Dean Pease knows anything about Brian Poole. And let's remember, Dean Pease could be influential in bringing in some guys that he knows that will fit the system that he plans on running, that he's going to blitz everywhere and things like that. He might not be interested in this talent here in Atlanta. Anthony says, anything Eagles may try to get that wide receiver from Alabama. Now, that could be something. And really, when you think about it, I mean, whether that's the Heisman Trophy winner or whether that's Waddle, don't sleep on Waddle. Waddle is actually pretty good. And if he didn't get hurt, I'm trying to tell you, my man down in Bama may not have even had a chance to play this year. Waddle is a really good wide receiver. Christian, this is what I think is going to happen. Matt is going to finish his last year in Atlanta. Then the 49ers will release Jimmy G and sign Matt to have a reunion with Kyle. That could happen. 1 year removed, who knows? Listen, if I'm a Falcon fan at heart, this is what my dream scenario is. And this is what my dream is. First of all, I want the Falcons to win the Super Bowl every year. But this is my dream. Atlanta goes out, Matt Ryan starts, does a Fitzpatrick, gives us a couple of good games, but not quite great games. Insert draft pick number 4, a.k.a. Fields, a.k.a. Lance, a.k.a. Wilson. And the beginning of the new regime starts midseason. And hopefully we still have time enough to recover. That schedule next year is not daunting. We got the NFC East. We have the AFC. I apologize. I forgot that quick. AFC East. New England. And now that division doesn't look as daunting except for Buffalo. Jets, Miami, Buffalo, New England. Not really a scary schedule next year. So why not be able to turn around? We can. Anthony says it was rumor going around that they could possibly move Oliver to safety. I saw the same thing. The only thing I say about that is, remember, folks, a lot of things that we're basing these guys, the new folks coming in, Arthur Smith's guys coming in, we don't know if they are even infatuated with this Falcon talent. Now, I'm pretty sure they know, because of the restrictions on the salary cap, they may not have a choice but to try to make some of these guys players. But somebody like Isaiah Oliver, who's, I think, is only $1.3 million, if I'm not mistaken, $1.1 million salary. Not really. I mean, you could save $1 million, but maybe that's somebody who has some continuity with a couple of the guys playing. One of the things I know we need to get a dance partner over there with AJ Terrell on the other side. AJ Terrell, one dropped interception away from probably being all rookie on the cornerbacks. Ms. Toya says, I hope the new quarterback motivates Matt to play out of his mind. That's the goal, Toya. That's the goal to me. You bring in that guy to push him. And look, Matt Ryan is saying all the right things, and I don't think he's as naive as folks might think. Matt sees the tea leaves. When he sees the guys who brought him in, signed him to 2 contracts, leave or not leave, get fired, Matt Ryan might be sitting by saying, oh man, these are the cats that loved me. These are the cats that made their whole world around me. Thomas Dimitroff made his whole career around Matt Ryan. Think about it. 5 years in, it looked beautiful. At the end, not so much. But Matt Ryan has got to be thinking, man, everybody who was infatuated with me at the end is gone. No more Mike Smith. No more Dan Quinn. And more importantly, no more Thomas Dimitroff to sign me to these ridiculous contracts. So the onus is on Matt Ryan to play, to make this, it better be about the closest you can get to that 2016 season as you can. We have to squeeze as much out of that lemon as we can. That's a big move. And then we got to think about defensive end. Bailey was a rotational guy. He was never really a starter. You need to bring some folks in here that's going to help Grady in that interior line. I know we still haven't had a chance to see Marlon Davidson, and I want to give the young man a chance. I understand that. But we need to get that stuff jump-started now. Maybe with Dean Pease, he has a system that's going to help us to get the most out of the guys we have. But that's what we're looking at. We need some defensive line help. And then you start talking about Younghoe Koo, free agent. Do we honestly sign Younghoe back? He gave us some little moments. I can't sign him back for more than $3 million. Remember how we scoffed at that when Matt Bryant was asking for big money? Younghoe had one good year, 1.5. 1.5 good years. I can't sign him to $3 million when we have the holes that we have. I cannot invest my money in a kicker. I can see doing like they did last year for the punter. Went down and got the punter in the 7th round. They'll be around. There'll be some good college kickers around in the 7th round. Trust me, all the good kickers in college are not going to be gone before the 7th round. You go out and get your next kicker. I let Youngway kick. I let Youngway go ahead. Anthony say Koo was our leading scorer. Do you honestly think? Listen, I hate to go here. Any kicker that would have come in this team that wasn't scoring touchdowns was going to be our leading scorer because we weren't scoring touchdowns. They're going to have to kick field goals. You can't sign Koo to a big contract. You can't. You got way too many other needs. Loved the little kid. Loved what he gave us. Except when he had a chance to tie the game against Kansas City. Gave us some good opportunity. And he's going to make some money somewhere. No cry for him. He's going to make some money somewhere else. But you can't sign him right now. Christian says we need to pick up some veterans in free agency this if possible. Yeah, you're going to have to get some journeymen who this team is going to look very similar to what Matt Ryan came into in 2008. If you remember that year, that was coming off, of course, the world of Mike Vick in 2007. And we made some little picks. And I know the big signing was Turner to help us out in the backfield, which is a great pick, great free agent pickup. But we made little picks that came in and helped us out. Was that the team that Lawyer Malloy was on? Not Lawyer Malloy. Is that him? No, Lawyer Malloy. Was that not Lawyer Malloy? Who was the guy from Buffalo? Was that one? Y'all help me out. I know y'all know already. But maybe bringing in a couple of veterans who are probably, midway near the end or right in the middle, not going to get a big contract from anybody else. Bring them in for 1 year and see what happens. Corey, would you sign Von Miller if we could get him for the vet minimum? Absolutely, I would sign Von Miller if I could get him for the veteran minimum. But once I pinch myself and wake up and know that you're not going to get Von Miller for the veteran minimum, yeah, that's the reality. But absolutely, Von Miller has he wants no part of this. Von Miller got the taste of the champagne a few years ago, and he's going to go to a team that's going to give him another taste of champagne. He's not going to waste his time with a team like Atlanta. You know when he wastes his time? You know where he would go? He'd go to a team like the Jets that could pay him money. He could. He's going to go to a team like Jacksonville. Think about Von Miller right now. If Denver were to release him and cut him and let him go, do you actually think Von Miller is going to accept the veterans minimum salary? A former Super Bowl MVP? And not that his game has gone down, injuries. Von Miller is a prize if Denver were to let him go. But he's not going to play for a veterans minimum. Corey, Christian, Patrick Peterson would be a nice pick if we could do a 1-year deal. Somebody else that I would think about too, Patrick Peterson got paid on his last contract. Would he be willing to take 1 year at $3-4 million? It would be a nice stopgap if we could, but I'm not sure if he would. I'm really not sure. These guys that made that second contract money and are either getting released or getting to the free agent part of their contracts, the Richard Shermans, the Patrick Petersons, folks like that, They want to get paid. No, not only do they want to get paid, they want to win. J.J. Watt, same thing. The J.J. Watt phenomenon. Where do you think he wants to go? Do you think he actually would say, do you think he would actually even stop in Atlanta? And most of these guys are savvy now. It's not like these guys are sitting on their couch and saying, agent, figure it out. They watch the NFL Network. They watch ESPN. They see Atlanta's in cap hell. Why would you come to the Atlanta Falcons knowing that they can't pay you? And knowing that you're probably not going to be uber competitive. At least that's the early thought. I hope they are. But why would J.J. Watt have any motivation to come to Atlanta? Now, he would have motivation to go to Green Bay. He would have motivation to go to Pittsburgh, play with his brothers. And he would have motivation to join Gronk and the rest of the guys who followed Tom Brady down in Tampa. But we have to think about that stuff. Those guys really want to. Right now, if you're a veteran past your second contract, unless you are just, in demand, you want to try to get that last shot at a championship. Do like as Dominican Sue did, jump from team to team to team, and finally land it where he can get somebody. Anthony says, I would like to talk to Earl Thomas' agent and see how much he wants. No, Earl has some personal issues going on too. Earl kind of rubs me as somebody who probably is in that same boat. I think Earl's going to be competitive. We had a better chance at getting Earl last year than we did getting him this year, when there was a thought that we had a chance to do some things. But if Earl comes to Atlanta, and remember, if these guys come to this situation in Atlanta, they're not coming for free. They're going to come and want to get paid. And we're not in that position. Lisa, people want to keep him around because they like his name. Yeah. JJ is going to be a Brown. Maybe. The only reason I would think that is if the rumors about Odell are true, where they're trying to jettison him out of the way. I could almost see them wanting to make a move there. I don't see Julio going to Cleveland. I do see him possibly going to the AFC North, maybe Baltimore, who is one receiver away. That could be interesting. I didn't say I wanted him to go, but I'm saying if it was any team that probably needs somebody like Julio Jones, I could see Baltimore. I think the Browns have a nice little young nucleus that has some other guys there that they would give a shot to before Julio would do that. Let's see. Christian, ODJ is definitely going to be out. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking too. At least. So I also say, from a standpoint of going back to the quarterback position, is there any chance that any of you think Matt Ryan will be traded? My mind tells me no. Because I think with these new guys coming on, the first thing they want to do is try to get what they can out of him this year. Matt Ryan is going to start day one. I tell y'all that right now. In my opinion, I think he starts day one. Unless somebody comes with a package that you just cannot turn down. I'm going to my favorite website real quick, Spot Track, to look up Matt Ryan real quick. And the reason why I'm doing this is to say next year makes much better sense for Matt Ryan to be let go. In 2021, This is the biggest cap hit. He'll be a $40 million cap hit this year. If you release Matt Ryan before June 1st next year, his dead cap is only $23 million. $26 million, I'm sorry. As opposed to the $40 million. You're going to take a hit one way or the other. Matt Ryan doesn't make it to the end of this contract. $16 million of salary next year. You don't sign him to the $9 million signing bonus in March. You take a small hit. You take about a $9 million hit. 2023, all of the money is gone. All of the bonus money is gone. I don't think you trade him. I think he sticks around. I think he does. Lisa said, no, Matt is with us for the 2021 season, I think. Toya, the Colts would have been a great spot for Matt. I kind of thought that they were one of the teams, the Colts, the Bears, and of course, the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco is in a situation, though, I think they would be looking to get rid of Jimmy G. So they were probably looking for a trade and possibly bringing in a new quarterback and Jimmy Garoppolo. That might not be a bad deal, but I just don't think that's going to happen. Ideal scenario, number 4, with the number 4 pick, the Atlanta Falcons pick, and the other 3. And at this point, it really doesn't matter. All of them are going to be in the Saints. Neither one of them is going to start day one. But whoever Arthur Smith thinks can run his offense the best, that's who you go out and get. Number 2, nobody's talked about who we're getting in the second round. I've seen a lot of the mock drafts that go around. A lot of people are saying running back. Here's my deal, y'all. I think the running back, the draft is going to be saturated with good runners. No need to go crazy about Najee Harris. No need to go crazy about Etnan. There are some other nice running backs around this league. And even in our own backyard. I'm not trying to say Zamir is going to light the world on fire. And I understand he had some injury problems. But Zamir White would be intriguing in the late rounds. If you think about it. That might not be a bad pickup at all. So I just say, think about some of these things when you start thinking about the future of the Falcons. Christian says, we are going after a linebacker edge in the second round. I can see that. I can definitely see that. Christian also says, I believe he'll be traded if he starts the season 0-3. He's going to be benched and going to be asked to be traded because in his mind, he's a starter. I know you didn't hear my earlier scenario. That's my dream scenario for him to start the season. Maybe not start 0-3, but start at least 3-3, 4-3, then bring the next guy in. My fear is going into the new season, 2021, is Julio getting hurt his first game, and then we're stuck with him, kind of like we've been for the last year. Toddy, I like Asante Samuel Jr. in the second round. That's actually not a bad pick. I know everyone was high on Patrick Surtain out of Alabama. But I also caution, you can build the model like Seattle did and have the 2 cornerbacks back there. I guess we have nothing to lose at this point. I would love to have a veteran on one side, on the other side at cornerback. It would not hurt my feelings to have Asante Samuels in the second round, though. So you think they may trade back into the first round? I've had this conversation before, and it is my thought that with a top 4 pick, with a franchise that's at the crossroads, And with guys, both of them, who have never been in this spot before, it's like being fourth in line at the candy store when it first opened. There's no need. Why would you go back? You can go and get whoever you want, whether it be quarterback or offensive lineman or whatever. You have the opportunity to go out and get an extraordinarily gifted athlete in the top 5 of the draft. The trade back thing sounds great. But when you're 4-12, and more importantly, when you're on your 3rd consecutive losing season, you've got to get something to shake this team up. Move 1, got rid of the GM. Move 2, get rid of the coach. Move 3 is to get your new quarterback of the future. So if you ask me, I say you keep the number 4 pick and not trade back. Now, if you're talking about trading back 2 spots and you're still able to get your quarterback, that's one thing. I can't do it. Brick says exactly. 1 quarterback, 2 cornerback. That's not a bad deal. Christian, you could always pick up O-linemen and running backs. And I think that's – and also keep in mind, Christian, Thomas Dimitroff isn't here anymore. I know everybody is going to say, and I hate this phrase, same old Falcons. Well, it's not going to be the same old Falcons because the same old decision makers for the last 13 years are not here. And you really only had 3 between Dimitroff, Mike Smith, and Dan Quinn. Those guys are gone. You have new folks. You have a whole new scouting team coming in that's going to evaluate, hopefully, better than the last regime. I'm going to put some faith in them that they can go in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round and find some guys to fill in. And more importantly, the undrafted free agents. It's not just about the draft. It's about who you pick up right after that 7th round, the Mr. Irrelevant is picked. Once Mr. Irrelevant is picked, you can go out and sign anybody that you want to out there on the open market. Those are going to be important picks. So the scouting team not only has to look at who's going to get drafted, they need to look at who's not going to get drafted. Who can come in here and be a surprise? Who can be that Brian Poole that's undrafted and make the team? Those are the type of things that I'm looking forward to out of the next guys that's coming in here, to be able to make those type of evaluations. We haven't had a lot of those guys to make our team. And that would be good. That would be good for us. Tyler says, question, Steve, if you were the new GM, how would you privately be approaching the 2021 season, the season of rebuilding or a season of contending? I go to the scenario, keeping in mind, Tidy, that I know people say 8 games, but realistically, 2 of those games that we were 1 score behind, I don't think we would have won. Carolina was one of them. I don't think that was a winnable game. And then the New Orleans game, as much as it was 1 possession, I'm still not sold that we were going to come back and win that. When you're as close as you can with this team, I would give Matt a fighting chance to see what he can do in that first half of the season. I would give him a fighting chance to see how the team responds to Matt in 2021. If by chance we can start off 4-1, 4-2, okay, then maybe you tell the Rook, hold tight for a second. Let's see where this goes. So ask me that question in October of 2021. There are so many unknowns. Privately, I want Matt Ryan to kind of go 500. I want Matt Ryan to go 500, 3-3, so we can make the move to the next person. As a Falcon fan, I want Matt Ryan to go 6-0. But privately, if we talk about that, I want them to go 3-3 and say we got nothing to lose. Let's bring in the new kid and see what he has. Now, of course, if we're 0-4 or 0-5, you don't have a choice. But I think anywhere up to 3-3, bring in the new kid, and hopefully they can spark you down the line. Christian says, I would say contenders. And look, again, look at this schedule, folks. We can essentially turn this thing around. I know Tampa Bay is still in the division, but there's 7 wildcard teams now. The NFC East, is there anybody in the NFC East that scares you? I don't care. Washington's defense, maybe. There's no team in the NFC East that scares me at all. And I'm not saying you're going to go 4-0, but there's no reason to say, oh my God. AFC East. New England, no. Miami, not really. The Jets, no. Buffalo, okay. Those are 7 of your games next year. Does Carolina strike fear in you? They will with Deshaun Watson if rumors are correct. Is New Orleans, because New Orleans, not only because I can't stand them, but New Orleans have been front runners for these last few years. And it's great to say you have 4 straight NFC South titles. But when you're losing the first or second week in the playoffs, what good is that? I don't think New Orleans is in the greatest of shape going into next year. And then we got the last place teams, last place in the Central, in the North, NFC North, old time. I'm old time. NFC North was Detroit. Jared Goff. And then in the West was that? Yeah, who ended up last in that division? Was that the Rams? Not Rams. Was it Arizona? Rams, Arizona? No, it was San Francisco. Sorry. Forgot about San Francisco. Yep. So we got San Francisco. Christian, reason I say contenders because Falcons have the right pieces. We just need to be able to close out games. If we look back, we should be in the wild card spot back to back. Probably should. Lisa, undrafted guys are diamonds in the rough. I hope the scouting team is on it. Find us some gems. That's what they're being brought in there for. Hopefully that's what it is. Christian, when I think of rebuild, for example, when I think about the Texans, they have nobody, and on top of that, they're probably going to lose their quarterback, possibly. I keep seeing these, and it's hard to go because if y'all look at these websites, some of them are kind of shaky, but I've been seeing a couple of different ones talk about the Texans possibly making a swap with Carolina for Christian McCaffrey. And the Texans and him and Deshaun Watson coming to Carolina, which would probably be great for Deshaun. He come closer to home. I don't know. I'm not feeling that. Toria says contenders. Hopefully these new coaches can light a fire under our underachieving guys. That's my thought. These guys have been sitting. They've been fat catting under Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn probably he did. You have to give him a little bit of credit. Coming off of the 2014 season when we were 4-12, and then 2015, yeah, we kind of bombed out and went 8-8, and then we went to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, I know we can go Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur and everybody else, but that's going to go under Dan Quinn's resume. He took this team to the Super Bowl, and we lost. And then he also followed up a Super Bowl win with going back-to-back to the playoffs. A lot of Super Bowl teams don't make it back. to the playoffs, let alone a chance one pass away from getting back to the NFC Championship. So maybe these new coaches who have no ties to these guys who are on this roster can put them through the rigors and say, okay, y'all, impress me. Show me. Show me what you got. There's nobody on here that, to me, is untouchable. And that goes for number 2, and that goes for number 11. Nobody. Lynn says, I think whoever is left on the team will be fighting for their positions. If we get that fire back, who knows where we will end up. Falcon fan for life. I hear you, Lynn. We should be in a good position. As we said before, Lynn, it's not like we're full of scrubs on this team. Grady Jarrett is basically an all-pro player. Deion Jones is one of the fastest linebackers in the game. Contrary to my awful thoughts of him being drafted last year, number 1, A.J. Terrell looks like he might be primetime player. Not like a primetime player. Still haven't seen anything out of Marlon Davidson, so I don't know. Foye Oluokun, most improved player, if you ask me, probably in the NFL. I don't know if he ended up leading the league in tackles or was close, but I know at one time he was right up there. By far, to me, the most improved player on the Atlanta Falcons team. There are bits and pieces on this team that can't be redeemable. On the offensive side, and I know everybody wants to dog these guys out, but start looking at the right side of the line, folks. McGarry and Lindstrom weren't horrible. They weren't as horrible as people want to make them. I think the problems came up the middle and over to the left. Alex Mack was not what he's been. And James Carpenter is like a Q-line thing that you just go through. That was one of the worst signings we've had in the last few years. There are redeemable parts on this team. So I do think there's a possibility that we could turn this thing around and be a decent team. But I digress. Tidy, did we ever hire a new scouting department? They have. And I don't know the name, but they did hire a new head of college scouting this year. And you might want to, if you check it out for me, Tidy, I know they did hire, and that wasn't this past weekend, but it was like maybe 2 weeks ago that they did hire a new college scouting, head of college scouting. They did. Brick, DQ was aspiring for about 3 years, and that ran out. That's it. Plain and simple. Christian, even Ridley has to fight for his job still. He should. He should. Look, when you're 4-12, it's a team game. It's so easy for us, including myself, to throw Matt under the bus. So easy to throw number 11 under the bus. I think our eyes are fixated on them because of the amount of money that they count for against this salary cap. You're talking about two guys that's accounting for basically $60 million. That's almost 1/3 of your salary cap. So whether they like it or not, they're going to be looked at. Do you think anybody is actually looking at Patrick Mahomes' numbers, even though this year I know he didn't count towards the cap because it was an extension. Do you think anybody was paying attention to what Tom Brady counted for against the cap for Tampa Bay? Because they're winning. When you're winning, nobody cares. I even look at people now talking about Russell Wilson since he's came out and bellyached about getting hit all the time. Now they start talking about, well, shoot, Russell, we paying you this money now. Before, when you were a rookie and you were playing with the Legion of Boom and you weren't making any money, you were the best quarterback in the league. Now that you're making money, people are looking. And it's fair. We're only human. If you're less than a champion in the NFL, you're going to be scrutinized, especially when you start looking at these salaries. And I know people want to run out there and say, no, the quarterback isn't worth that much. That's not true. The quarterback is the most important person on your team, and therefore will be the highest compensated. But what comes along with that high compensation is high evaluation. And you have to call a spade a spade. If they're not doing the job, 4,000 yards means nothing to me on a 4-12 team. And that goes for Deshaun Watson, too. Deshaun Watson, most talented. Yeah, he's 4-12. And I know it wasn't all his fault, just like it's not all Matt's fault. But unfairly, you make that much money, you get scrutinized. Number 11, the best wide receiver in this franchise's history. You're going to get scrutinized if you're making over $20 million and you didn't play 8 games this year. Whether it was your fault or not. It's fair game. It's fair game for us to scrutinize that. And that's not a hate. And the people mistake that for a character judgment. I'm not hitting on Matt Ryan's character or Julio Jones' character. I'm saying, are we getting the money, the investment we put into these guys? And the answer from 2018 to 2020 is a resounding no. So we can sit here and say Matt Ryan's the greatest franchise quarterback, Julio's the greatest receiver, Grady's the greatest, one of the great defensive linemen, and Debo is one of the fastest. But when you're 4-12, nobody trying to hear that mess. When you got Tampa Bay, they're making legends over there. AB finally getting his ring. Gronk with his 3rd ring, probably just solidified Hall of Fame status. Shady McCoy for the last 2 years has played on the last 2 Super Bowl teams, and I think has 10,000 yards in scrimmage. Is he a Hall of Famer? No, but he's going to get on the list because of those 2 chips. When you win, everything's great. And the scrutiny isn't as strong. When you don't win, it's full evaluation. Full evaluation. Tidy says, you mean you wasn't impressed with all 8 of those tackles from Marlon Davidson last year? I was not. And I know, listen, the Marlon Davidson situation smells early, a little bit like Tack. Because remember, we all sat up here and last year when he had his first video interview, boy, he sounded like he got some dog in him. He's da-da-da-da-da-da. And I know he's a rookie. I know it's his first year, but it sounded a lot like Tack. Tack came out, taught the good game. Give him a little credit because I think the first year, Tack had 9 sacks. Was it one of the years? Didn't Tack have 9? And you see where that went after that. Talk does not impress me these days. Talking is overrated. Now it's time to put it on the field. Put it on paper. Like my buddy John Harris says. Put it on paper. Micho says, what's up, Micho? Jamin Brown and James Carpenter were terrible signings. Absolutely, they were terrible signings. Hopefully that's where the scouting folks come in. Remember the big thing this year, everybody in the Falcons offense is first-round picks. Everybody that played on the Falcons offense were first-round picks. And you see where every last one of those picks got us. 4-12. So sometimes it may not be. Don't get fooled by the shiny number that said they got drafted. The evaluate. Sometimes you talk about evaluation. Sometimes it's scheme. The scheme probably wasn't good for some of those guys. Maybe that's what it was. Excuse me, y'all. Trey says, I'm sorry, Dre Trice says people should not want to move Matt Ryan. Look what happened to the Eagles. They're the laughing stock. Now, I want to make sure you got this right. You say people should not want to move Matt Ryan. The only argument for keeping Matt Ryan is financial this year. If Matt Ryan was making less than $20 million, that move would have been made the day after Tampa Bay walked off the field. Right now, we're kind of stuck with Matt. Matt, this is redemption year for him. This is a redemption. This is the year he has to prove that he's worth it to the next team he's going to be on. Because after the April whatever draft, whatever day the draft is in April, after we make that pick right there, Matt Ryan becomes expendable that day. So Matt Ryan is fighting for the rest of his career this year. And I know he's going to approach it as a professional. I'm not trying to say Matt Ryan is a bad quarterback, but I am saying his time probably here is kind of run its course. Time to start some new guys in here. Time to get some new folks. Christian, people need to understand this is a business. When your franchise struggles to bring people to the game, it's time to change. And I'm trying to tell you, Christian, listen, 2019, do you know how miserable it was? And a lot of times I would, just to show y'all how miserable it was, if y'all remember during halftime, I used to come on live inside the group, and there were so many empty seats behind me, and I basically felt like I was yelling. No, I'll take that back. I didn't have to yell. I couldn't have done that in the Georgia Dome that last year. Probably couldn't have done it in 2017. It was still, slightly crowded. I think that's a combination of PSLs being added to that. It's a little bit more than play. That this PSL deal, I think, has taken the common fan away from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. This stadium is meant to be corporate. This is about the lower seats. This has it is not very friendly for those folks who are used to sitting in the upper levels, and that's just keeping it 100. So that's part of the reason for the attendance. The other reason is you got to put a winning product on the field. Put a winning product on the field, people will come. They might not come in the first quarter, but people will come in eventually. Titus said, not to pile on Davidson, but with the 47th pick, we simply must get more production than that. That is almost a wasted year. And another correlation with that, Tidy, I think about our buddy Hagelman that we brought in here. Now, we know some personal stuff kept that off the field as well, but boy, our last regime could not get it right, with the exception of Grady on that line. When you think about Sadat, is he still on the team? He was what? Was he third or fourth round? Anybody from the first to the fourth round, I'm expecting you to be in high competition to start on the team. I'm expecting you to be in high competition to be on the field for 70% of the snaps. Especially Marlon Davidson, when you start talking about some youth. I mean, the hype for him to be next to Grady, to be able to wreak havoc in the middle. Let's hope that Dean Pease can do whatever he needs to do with him, or whoever the D-line coach coming in. Would have loved to have Chuck Smith in here. But whoever the next D-line coach is, that can come in here and work with these young cats and get some production out of them. It's pretty sad. Jamil says quarterbacks, they are the highest paid players and they play the most important position. I'm sure you mean they take most of the credit for wins and they get a lot of blames for losses. The fan base here wants you to praise players when the team is losing. And you don't help a player. Deshaun Watson is in a precarious position. Deshaun Watson, easily from anybody's eye test, is one of the most talented players in the NFL. And before this year, before they got rid of Hopkins and took one of his favorite targets away from him, you saw what he could do. But then there's also another part of that that said, you know what? We thought enough of you to invest $40 million in you because we thought, you know what? We can get rid of Hopkins and have you make these receivers great. And that kind of backfired on him. Now, for a 4-12 season, is it fair to blame Deshaun Watson? I say yes. I don't care if you threw for 4,900 yards. You're a quarterback of a 4-12 team. Hard times indeed, but you get the same scrutiny. You do. He wasn't perfect. Every game didn't come down to him making a good play. So you have to give him the same amount of criticism that we give our brother Matthew here at quarterback. You have to. Toya says Matt will be auditioning for his new team motivation. Listen, Toya, if anything, I'll guarantee you this will probably be his best effort since the 2016 season. And I keep having these visions of John Harris just whispering in my ear because I know he talks about this all the time, about Kyle Shanahan lighting a fire underneath Matt. Well, if you want anything else to light a fire under you, pick that number 4 pick if you're the Falcons. It's going to work wonders because you're going to do one or two things. You're going to either motivate Matt to be the best quarterback he can be, which will help us. And you're going to have our future quarterback for the next decade, hopefully, coming to the team. So it works. It's a dual thing. It's going to work for us. Trust me. Steven, 2019 sucked. I had to sit with so many other teams fans because everyone around me sold their tickets every week. Steven, look, me and you are in the same boat, man. And do you realize how frustrating it is? And my son, who is just turned 16, and granted, Falcon fan, but probably too real for a lot of people because, listen, he's an inherited Falcon fan, but he talks me off the ledge all the time about, turning around and we looking and saying, Dad, we're at the Carolina game and there's more Carolina people in here. Dad, we're here, was it a few years ago when Baltimore came in. We happened to be sitting a couple of rows away from RG3's wife, and then it was another player's wife that was sitting right across from us. And this whole gang of Baltimore Ravens fans. And we're saying to yourself, are we in Atlanta? Are we in Baltimore? But that's what it's become. Even as sorry as Tampa Bay was prior to Tom Brady getting there, Tampa fans came up here and loaded our stadium where you can truly look around and count the number of red seats. I feel you 100%, Stephen. I was right there. Also, Stephen says, Sadat is in so many cuts today. I'm very surprised. I thought he would be out with Rico. Let me see what he counted against the cap this year. 1 second. Because maybe that's part. See, and look, the Falcons are at a position where you're probably going to have to keep some of these guys that aren't making a lot of money. Let me see. Is he making? I don't even see. Is he on this list? I don't even see him on the list. Is he a free agent? Maybe he's a free agent. I don't see him on the free agent list either. I don't know, but it doesn't matter because he was on the inactive list all year. So not that it would make that much of a difference. But yeah, I hear you. Absolutely. Christian, do you think Lance or Fields will be box office if we draft one? Fields would automatically be a box office because just the folks who are around here that saw him play in Georgia would be more inclined to come down to see somebody. You'll have 5,000 to 6,000 people to come by and say, I knew him when. That'll just be there to support him. Lance has a little bit of flash in him as well. Definitely has a rocket. The only thing I worry about with Lance is he might be a little bit more project than Fields would be. And before some of y'all start thinking, I'm not talking about ghetto projects. I'm talking about he would have to work a little harder. Listen, FCS school is a lot different than the FBS school. Let's keep it real. So you might have to work with him a little bit harder. But hey, if it happened for Josh Allen, why can't it happen for Trey Lance? I still take a chance on both of them if I were you. Tidy, I agree with you to have to give Watson the same criticism that we give Ryan. People blame Matt Ryan for 28-3 and bring that up often, but fail to mention or remember that Watson had his own version of 28-3 on his resume also, and he went 4-12 this past season. People forget all about that Kansas City game. What was it, 24-zip? Was it 24-zip that they were leading and they came all the way back? I was pretty bad. You're absolutely right. People want to give him a pass real quick. Deshaun, you can't get one. You can't. You can't get one this year. Jamil, I respect teams that will take a dead money hit if they don't feel like they have the right quarterback to win. It's showing quarterbacks now, no contracts are untouchable. They can't be traded if the team don't feel like they have the right quarterback to win. But here's the only caveat in that, Jamil. If you're a team like Philadelphia, and let's just and boy, y'all got to get on this spot track. This is probably one of the if you want to get a little bit of understanding, and I'm by no means an expert, but if you want to get a little understanding of this salary cap, you can kind of catch on here pretty quick. Philadelphia with that move today, and it's effective now because Carson Wentz is off. They're taking a $50 million hit right now. $50 million. Now, some teams might be able to absorb that. I think the Falcons are not one of them. Now, I don't know what Philly has going on, but yeah, that's a pretty significant hit. But I just don't think you torpedo your whole salary. I understand what you're saying about having respect for those who will make that move. I'm not one of them. I think you try to make something out of it. Tidy, I think Sonata's blackmailing Arthur Blank. Look, maybe he's up there in the booth giving them some food or something like that, because every game, go look at the inactives. When the inactives come out, So not is on there, and then you see sometimes not injury related. I'm like, dude, what are you doing to not? And I know about being in the doghouse, but this is 2019 and 2020. I know. I think he had a little bit of an injury this year, but 2019 he would be on the inactive list healthy. So yeah, maybe look, maybe he is. Maybe he didn't wash his car or something. I don't know. Oh man, Stephen, great show. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Brick said Fats Tidy. I forgot about that app. Christian, have you thought about having your show at Atlanta tailgating? You know, I actually did think about renting out a spot last year, pre-COVID. I truly thought about renting out a spot down there, not only at the Home Depot place. I actually did think about going in the backyard, but we also have a spot right underneath the right over by the railroad tracks where I used to be over there with a lot of New Orleans Saints fans. Some of my really good buddies, but they're Saints fans, so I don't want to give them that much shine. Maybe we'll see what goes on this year. Hopefully, if things get a little bit better, we'll possibly be able to work that out. We did have a remote. John Harris and I had one remote at Dave and Buster's, the 2019 season, the game that we won, the game that we won that was in New Orleans. We did a live broadcast from there that was pretty good. So maybe look for something like that, especially for away games. We had a good relationship with the manager down there in McDonough, and he told us to come back anytime because we were hospitable. Once you guys, hopefully we might be able to get together and maybe have something where everybody can come and be on air and we could talk this stuff out in person. Listen, this is a great forum to do this. I love doing this, and I know some of you folks who are here all the time is great, but there's nothing like sometimes congregating together and watching some TVs. And that Dave and Buster's deal, if you all are on this side of town, on the south side of town, maybe that's something we can look forward to in 2021. I'm thinking that's a good deal. Tidy says, once COVID is over, we're going to have to plan for a day for all of us to go to a game together as a group. Somebody brought that up 2 weeks ago, maybe the 2022 season. I'm thinking the same thing. I think 2021 is going to be the fill out season to see how things work out. I mean, I'm still, kind of seeing what the summer is going to hold coming in as far as these tickets are concerned. I'm doing wishful thinking, but yeah, we're gonna have to see how this thing works out. Christian, what do you think will bring in more fans aside of wins? That's a very good question, Christian. Winning to me cures all. Tampa Bay was nothing. I mean, they were an average team going absolutely nowhere with Jameis Winston, 5,000-yard passer, of course, 30 interceptions, and nothing. Winning cures. Look at Cleveland. People are talking about Cleveland now. Look at Buffalo. For 15, 20 years, nobody cared about Buffalo. And look what they're doing now. And I'm not saying that they've arrived either, but when you're talking about the Arizona Cardinals, yeah, they had a drink of coffee in the early part of the decade when they went to the Super Bowl, but they've been nothing. They're moving in the right direction. Winning is the cure-all. I wish I had a better. You can have a no-name person quarterbacking. Look at Miami, who should have probably made the playoffs. Look at Miami. Before the Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick combination of this year, nobody thought about Miami. Now all of a sudden the fan base is excited. You win. And I'm sure you're getting tired of me talking about the experience in this Georgia Dome. It's different. Even 2012, 2016, that brings excitement. Winning breeds excitement. Really, the first 5-year trend with Matt Ryan, if we're being completely transparent and being honest, Falcon fans didn't know how to act that first couple of years, because I think there were some people still on the Mike Vick hangover in 2008. And as we went 10-6 that year, I think some people were like, it's going to be a blip. And then for the first time, you win 2 years in a row. Well, okay, we didn't make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden we bounced to 13-3. And really from that game on, that Georgia Dome was pretty packed. Culminating in the end in 2016. Now, the 2017 thing, I'm telling you, these finances, this new stadium, I think you're finding out that as much as people love the Atlanta Falcons, a lot of folks aren't going to make that huge investment. I can't reach into anybody's livelihood and tell you how to spend your money. And I don't blame you. The prices were astronomical compared to what they had at the Georgia Dome. And on top of the PSL, the PSL edition. So I think a lot of those things right there, I don't know if I even answered the question, but to me, I think that combination has kind of emptied out. Because even in 2017, while it was kind of full, it still wasn't Georgia Dome full. They tried to make it seem like it was. But even the playoff year of 2017 was nowhere near. Now, the Saints games would come kind of close, where it was like maybe 80% capacity. But that 2019 year was miserable. That was absolutely miserable. I took my little girl to her first solo. Now, we've gone as a family before, but this is 2019 was the first time I took her by herself to the game, and I'm trying to remember which game it was. I know we won. I have to go back and look in time. And my main thing that you think about when you go into those games is how crowded is it going to be? And, she's at that time, she was 8. And I'm saying, hold on tight to me, baby, because it's going to be crowded and I don't want to lose you. And we walked in there like we were walking through the mall. There's nobody in there. And I just want to have that feeling back where everybody has motivation to come back to the stadium. We just don't have it now. Maybe an exciting new pick, a new quarterback at number 4 will do it. Maybe so. Rick says I'm there. We have to hit on the first 3 or 4 pick this year. No exceptions. It's almost like that Arthur Blank thing when he told him in 2016. Maybe he has to repeat it. I need 3 starters. I need y'all to draft 3 starters. And that year, I think we ended up with 4. Was it Debo, Neal, Grady, and Devondre Campbell? We ended up with 4 that year. So those are the things that we need to work on. Christian, the reason why I ask is because every time someone who asks who is my team, they say, oh, yeah, Vic and the 28-3 squad. And that's going to happen until we change the fortunes, folks. It is. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But we stay loyal and we do what we do. We do what we do. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for me tonight. I probably went about 30 minutes too late. I'm going to come in this weekend and finally do that top 10 list tidy that I owe you. And I told people yesterday, when you challenged me for the top 10 list, I put a twist on it, and I have it on my screen right now but I wanted that to be a certain so we can kind of go back and be a little nostalgic. The top 10 Falcons, I'm sorry, not top 10, the top Falcons at every position and my top Falcons at every position. So we can debate that. We'll do that show on Sunday, give everybody a chance to rest and relax. And we'll do that on Sunday afternoon in between a couple of NBA games so we can have something to do. All right. Other than that, man, y'all have a great night. Thank y'all for joining us tonight to talk about these new moves. Any breaking news, we'll try to come in. Y'all still be nice to each other, man. Y'all did a good job today. You're doing better. Be nice to each other. We can do this thing until this kickoff kicks in this year. Until then, y'all have a great night. Take care of yourselves. Peace.